In the beginning, Manny and his two possum friends, Crash and Eddie, are taking a pot of water to his wife, Ellie, because he believes that she is giving birth. However, it turns out that it was just a false alarm and Manny panicked after Ellie told him the baby kicked. Later, Manny takes Ellie to a special place and surprises her with a custom-built playground for their future child. Ellie jokes with Manny about his overprotective tendencies and says that he cannot baby-proof the whole of nature. Manny nervously denies it, but he cannot help himself and continues to worry about the baby. Sid shows interest in the playground, but Manny stops him and says that only kids can play there. Sid is disappointed, but he obliges, but not before he messes with a snowman. At the same time, Diego is hunting an antelope and finds himself struggling with his vision. When he takes a moment to rest, the antelope taunts him, and Diego believes that he is no longer the predator he once was. Ellie notices that Diego is not like his usual self and asks Manny to have a heart-to-heart with him. Manny is not good at dealing with emotions, so he has an awkward chat with Diego. But Diego jumps to the point and confesses that he has lost his place in the herd. He says that Manny was going to have new priorities and it is time for them to move on. Manny gets angry at Diego for giving up and barges away from him angrily. Sid sees all of the commotions and Diego even asks him to move on. Upon hearing this, Sid feels lonely and takes a walk in the neighborhood. He finds that no one will accept him in their herd, and this breaks his heart. Suddenly, there is a crack in the ice and Sid falls into an abandoned cave. There he sees 3 unsupervised eggs and gets worried about their safety. However, he gets an idea and decides that he will adopt them. Sid takes the eggs to the surface where he finds it hard to protect them. In an accident, one egg slips out of his hand and falls from the mountain. Just when he thinks that his egg became an omelet, Ellie saves the day and catches the egg. Sid is happy seeing his child safe and jokingly scolds him in front of Manny and Ellie. Manny is not happy seeing Sid stealing someone's eggs and forces him to put them back. Sid refuses and takes them into his cave where he sees the babies inside the shell. He swoons and says that despite Manny's insistence, he will protect them. The next morning, Sid wakes up and sees that the eggs have hatched, and 3 baby Tyrannosauruses are waiting for him. They call him their mama and Sid beams in response. The next day, Sid takes care of the babies and has fun with them. He takes them to Manny's playground and opens the gate for them. However, as soon as other animals see the open door, they all rush in and in the process, they destroy Manny's playground. The baby dinosaurs have behavioral issues, and they eat and torture every other animal. The parents start fighting with Sid about his kids and he actively defends them. Upon hearing the sounds, Manny and Ellie rush to the playground and see the mess. Manny is disappointed in Sid and calls him out for breaking his rules. But before anything can happen, a giant dinosaur raids the playground in search of her kids. Everyone panics and runs to safety and Sid hides his kids in a cave. However, the mother Tyrannosaurus still finds them and takes them back into their cave. Manny, Ellie, and Diego see that their friend is taken by the dinosaur and rush in to rescue him. Manny is hesitant about Ellie going on a rough journey. But Ellie shuts him down and says that she will find her friend Sid. On the way, Manny says that they need to have a code word if the baby is coming and suggests the use of the word peaches. Ellie rolls her eyes but goes along with the plan. Soon enough, the herd enters a whole new world of dinosaurs that exists beneath them. Manny says that they always thought dinosaurs were extinct, but apparently, they were living just below them. While they are enjoying the view, an angry Ankylosaurus attacks them. Suddenly, Diego emerges and saves the gang from the attack. Ellie then makes a Brachiosaurus lean in and everyone slides from its back. Just as they think that they are safe, other angry dinosaurs huddle them. Just then, a one-eyed weasel, Buck, saves the herd and uses smell bombs to keep the dinosaurs away. Buck introduces himself and says that he has been living in the jungle for a while and is chasing the largest dinosaur, Rudy. He then informs the herd that Mama Dinosaur took her children and a sloth to the lava falls where all the dinosaur babies are. He agrees to help the gang and takes them on a fun yet dangerous journey ahead. Later in the jungle of misery, Manny and Diego get stuck in a carnivorous plant while Manny was trying to get some fruit for Ellie. Buck then steps up and saves both mammals by cutting a root. Meanwhile, Sid and Dino Mom are fighting with each other and feeding their children. Sid is adamant that being a vegan will help with their erratic behavior, but the dinosaur thinks otherwise. She gives the children a piece of meat which they happily devour. She then smirks at Sid, who looks at her annoyingly. Suddenly, there is a loud roar, and the Dino Mama nudges the kids for safety. Sid is confused, but he sticks with his kids and travels with them. That night, Buck happily tells the gang how he lost his eyes. Eddie and Crash are in awe of him and eat up every story he tells them. Buck says that Rudy almost swallowed him, but he launched himself out of his mouth and knocked a tooth. Now Buck proudly uses his tooth as his weapon. Later, Manny gets a nightmare that Ellie is eliminated by Rudy, and goes on to check on her. There he confesses that he regrets how he behaved with Sid and pushed him away, but interjects and says that Manny risked his life to save Sid, so he is a hero and a good friend. The next day, Sid is still traveling with the family, but he accidentally falls behind. He tries to catch up, but before he can get to safety, Rudy finds him. Sid runs for his life, and in doing so he reaches the lava river. Rudy's feet crack the surface and Sid floats on the river. He thinks that he is safe, but then he realizes that the river ends in a huge lava fall, and he does not have much time. On the other hand, the gang is near the lava falls, but suddenly Ellie gets extreme pain. Manny rushes to help her, but the stone plates fall from his weight and everyone except Ellie falls into the pit. Thankfully, they all are alright, but then Ellie screams for Peaches. Manny and the rest are confused, but then he realizes that the baby is coming. At the same time, Rudy roars and Buck realizes that Sid is close. He asks Eddie and Crash if they would follow him, and they happily agree. The trio leaves, and Manny and Sid realize that a pack of Guanlong are preparing to attack Ellie. Diego says that Manny must stay down where most of the Guanlongs are while he protects Ellie. Manny agrees and Diego climbs to guard Ellie, who is now in labor. There he chases a Guanlong, but his vision gets blurry again. He realizes that he is getting tired again, but the thought of protecting Ellie gives him adrenaline and he successfully catches up to the dinosaur. He does his little victory dance, but Ellie stops him midway and asks for his help in her labor. Meanwhile, Buck captures a flying pteranodon to get to Sid faster. Just as they close in on Sid, a flock of Quetzalcoatlus sees Eddie and Crash and rushes to eat them. Buck has no choice but to save them, and in doing so he steers away from the lava fall. He calls both the possums to get the ammunition and hit the attackers. Buck then takes them closer to the lava fall again, and by then he notices that Crash and Eddie have knocked down most of the Quetzalcoatlus. Just as Sid falls off the fall, the trio swoops him up and cheers at their victory. On the other hand, Diego is whining to Ellie that he is in extreme pain right now. However, it is because he is pushing Guanlongs from the hill. Meanwhile, Manny successfully closes the path from where the Guanlongs are coming and rushes to Ellie. Just as he gets to her, Ellie shows him a beautiful little baby. Manny is overwhelmed seeing his daughter and swoons with joy. He says that they will name her Little Ellie, but Ellie says that she has a better idea. She suggests the name Peaches and Manny happily agrees with her. Just then, Buck, Crash, Eddie, and Sid come back and are excited to see Peaches. Sid is sad that he never got to see his kids one last time before leaving. Now that the herd is reunited again, they start their journey back. Buck takes them to the cave where they all came from and says his goodbyes. However, just then Rudy emerges from the cave and attacks the herd. Everyone is scared, but Buck is ecstatic to meet his long-lost enemy. Rudy also remembers Buck and wants to take revenge for his lost tooth. Using this temptation, Buck baits the dinosaur away from the pack so that they can run for safety. Ellie, Peaches, Crash, and Eddie hide in the exit while Diego, Manny, and Sid go to help Buck. Rudy is close to eating Buck, but Diego saves the day again by jumping over his mouth. They all then begin to tie Rudy while Buck uses the giant butterflies to block his vision. In the end, Rudy gets tied up and falls to the ground unconscious. The herd celebrates a little, but then they run for safety. However, Sid accidentally trips over a wire and Rudy wakes up again. Rudy attempts to eat Sid, but suddenly Mama Dinosaur comes and pushes Rudy. Rudy is caught by surprise and before he can balance himself, falls from a cliff. Sid is extremely happy that Mama came to save him and calls her a softie. On the other hand, Buck confirms that Rudy must be gone after falling from the cliff. But for some reason, he does not feel happy about it. He feels like there is no purpose in his life anymore. Diego and Manny urge him to get to the surface with them where he can start over. He accepts the offer, but just as they all are crossing the skeleton bridge, he hears a roar. Buck realizes that Rudy might still be alive and says to Diego that his life is in the Dino world now. Diego respects that and lets him leave. Buck then destroys the skeleton bridge so that no more intruders can come in. Manny and Ellie then welcome their daughter into the Ice Age where she is playing with the snow. Manny apologizes to Sid and says that he was a good mother to his kids. Meanwhile, Diego realizes that there is no need for him to feel insecure about his instincts and decides to stay with the herd. On the other side, Buck rides Rudy like a boss.